Today we're going to be going over the best wide receiver press release drills. We're going to talk about a press release you can use, explain when you want to use that press release, how to use it, and then give you a drill to work on it. Now, before we get into a drill for this first press release, I'm going to explain this press release, the technique behind it, and then when you want to use the press release, obviously. So this green cone right here, this stack of cones lined up on this white line is going to represent the line of scrimmage where we are as a wide receiver, and this second green cone is going to represent where the DB is. So this first release is going to be called a slide release. So a slide release is something you would use. DB who's lined up inside shade press, it's called a slide crossover release. You would use this when that DB's inside shade press and you have to run a slant that is later developing. So this DB's inside shade. What we want to do is we want to try to attack his outside shoulder and outside hip. If I have to run a slant route and he's inside shade press, a lot of receivers just try to run it, but that guy is taught, do not give up the inside. So he'll get hands, force you to the inside, and then you're off your route. So you want to try to attack his outside shoulder and outside hip. The goal is to get him to flip or jump to the outside and play the fade. So a slide release is a great way to do that. As you see receivers like Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson do this all the time. They will slide and then just take off and go. So that's ultimately what we want to make it look like. So we come off here, this front foot is called a prep step, right? So your front foot, you can think of it like a jab step, but you essentially pick it up and put it down in the grass and you push off of it to slide at a 45-degree angle. The 45-degree angle is very important because it makes that DB choose. He could either sit to the inside or he could jump to the outside. Because a lot of guys, when they do this slide release, they'll slide flat. So that DB will either jump to the outside. Let's say that DB just sits to the inside. He's not threatened by the fade. He could easily just cut you off at the fade, so he's not going to move. You have to attack on that 45-degree angle on either a slide and go release or this slide crossover release to make him choose. So that first step, you're going to push off of it, slide, come to balance, hit him with a crossover move, so left, right, and then we slip back underneath. Now, longer developing, so like I mentioned, you use this when it's a longer developing slant. So like let's say the quarterback's here and it's an RPO. Comes off and throws. That's longer than the quarterback just catching it one step and then ultimately throwing. So that is your slide release. I'm going to show you how the release is going to look full speed, and then we'll get into a drill to work on that slide release. Now, before we get into this drill to explain the slide release and how you guys can work on your slide release, fellas, if you're a wide receiver and you would like to train with myself and my staff of coaches this offseason, we are coming out to 9 different states across the country for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camps. Next up on our camp tour, guys, we are coming out to Nashville, Tennessee. Then we'll be heading out to Chicago, Illinois, Buffalo, New York, Atlanta, Georgia, Houston, Texas, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Detroit, Michigan, Boise, Idaho, Los Angeles, California, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So guys, if you want some more information on how you guys can sign up for one of those camps, check out that very first link in the description below. We'd love to have you out to any one of our camps if you guys are local in the area or would like to travel out. So guys, again, very first link in that description below. Let's get back to this drill. So now this drill to work on your slide release, fellas, is called a slide zigzag release drill, if you will. Pretty simple name, pretty basic name, but essentially what you're going to need is you're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cones, and you're going to be working a slide and a crossover at each one of these cones. Now, what was important about that slide release? We had to attack at a 45-degree angle. So each one of these cones are going to be about 2 yards apart from each other at that 45-degree angle to get you used to closing the distance or attacking at that 45 with the DB. Now, another important aspect that we didn't talk about with the slide release is that when I do that slide release and I hit that crossover, I don't want to get on this crossover foot and then just pop up and try to run the slant because I'm not getting any speed out of the break. That's going to let that DB recover, as anytime a DB gets beat, he's thinking, oh shit, I got to recover, and he's trying as hard as he can, running as fast as he can to recover. So this works on us pushing off of each crossover move. So what you're going to do, start out here. Remember, we're taking that prep step with this front foot. So I prep, push, slide, 1, 2, slide, 1, 2, slide, 1, 2, slide, come back, last 1, 2, and then we come out and we can catch either a slant. If you don't have a quarterback to throw to you, you don't need to catch a ball, but this is great to work on that slide crossover release. I'm going to show you how this is going to look full speed. Now, this next release and drill we're going to be going over for this release is for a split release. So a split release is, I'm sure some of you have seen this, but maybe not the drill that we're going to be going over for it, but a split release is essentially exactly how it sounds. You're taking your front foot and you are moving it out, and you are bringing your back foot up. A lot of people think on this split release that both feet go out. You're going to end up being too wide. You're going to pop up, and we're not going to have any explosion out of it. Both feet need to make contact with the grass or the turf at the exact same time, but this is the only foot that goes out. This foot goes straight up, so you're here. Now, when I split like this, I'm in a balanced position. You want to use this when you have a DB who is lined up. I would say you could use it honestly against any leverage, inside leverage, head up or outside. I like it against a head up DB because you can react. So you come off here, we do this split. If that DB jumps to the outside, I could react and take it. He jumps to the inside, I could react because both feet are balanced and in the grass at the exact same time. So that's essentially when you'd want to use it. Remember, front foot goes out, back foot goes up, and I could push and get up into this route either way. So I'm going to show you how this release will look full speed, and then we're going to get into a drill to work on this. Now, for this drill to work on your split release, you need just essentially a circle of cones. I mean, I know it's not really a circle, but you need 4 cones to where your front foot can stand in between all of these cones. Now, why are we doing this drill? The mistake that a lot of receivers will make on that split release is they do not step out far enough with their front foot, right? So like, let's say I'm doing this split release here. Remember, this foot goes out, back foot goes up. We don't want to split both feet and end up super wide, but we also don't want to be this guy where this foot doesn't really move. I'm too narrow, because if a DB gets hands on me when I'm narrow with my base, I'm not going to have much balance and I could get knocked off this route. So this drill forces us to actually have to step outside of these cones. So it's going to be a 2-part drill. So the first part of the drill, let's say you have a partner and he says set go. When he says set go, this foot is going just slightly outside of this outside cone, but this foot actually has to step out of this cone circle and over the cones. So set go, we're here and we're just going to land, both feet come to balance at once, hold it. Then you're going to come back, set go, we split, and then you could release either way. So it's a 2-part drill. Both cleats hit the grass at the same time. Make sure that we're actually splitting my feet to get some hesitation on the DB, and so we could react either way. You're going to do probably about, I would say, 6 reps of this specific drill with each leg in the box. I'm going to show you how it's going to look full speed. So this next release you're going to be going over, and the drill to go along with it, will be for something called a diamond release. So a diamond release is what you would want to use if you line up. So remember that slide release that we talked about, right? You want to use a slide release when you have to run that slant, when that quarterback has a longer developing read, right? Zone read, RPO, taking a little bit of time. Maybe he's looking front side, coming backside, but what do you do if you have inside shade press and it's a quick release, right? So the quarterback is just catching one step and throwing. You would use something called the diamond release. So you're attacking this DB's inside leverage. You're attacking his outside shoulder and outside hip for 3 hard steps because it's a 3-step slant. So set go, we come off 1, 2, 3. I put the brakes on. I'm trying to run as tight as I can to him so I could swat, slip under, and throw by. Those 3 steps, it is so important, and this is what the drill is going to work on. Those 3 steps have to be long strides. We have to be running fast. My hips and my shoulders have to be committed to the outside to try to sell fade. That's the only way that this DB is going to open up his hips so we could slip back under him. You have to sell it. So I'm going to show you how this is going to look full speed, and then we'll get into a drill for it. Now, this drill is going to be working on the 3 steps required on that diamond release. So you need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cones set up, and we're essentially going to be just zigzagging from each cone, doing consecutive diamond releases, which we are only taking 3 steps. So this works on me taking long strides, actually running hard, and you want to commit your hips and your shoulders to each one of these cones, like how on a diamond release, you commit your hips and your shoulders to the DB's outside shoulder to sell fade. So we're coming off the ball right here, set go. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, pushing off of this cut to the next cone. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 again, coming out, and you catch a ball from a quarterback on a slant if you have one. If you don't have a quarterback, that's totally fine. You could just work through the footwork of this drill. Each one of these cones is going to be probably about 5 yards spaced out at a 45-degree angle. I'm going to show you how this is going to look full speed.